Hi folks, welcome in. I'm JP and this is Truth Probe. Andrew Wilson made an appearance on the Charlie Kirk Show yesterday and actually stood up for Candace. And then he called her stupid. We'll get into that. Also, we're going to be taking a look at X and get you updated on that. And we'll go over some highlights from Candace's show yesterday, which was very good. She dropped some more footage and we'll take a look at that. Let's get right into it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, turn on the notifications so you don't miss a show. Let's get right into it. First, we'll take a look at X and get you all caught up on that. Yesterday, we went over the briefing that had dropped in Candace's last post there. She talked about what was coming up on her show yesterday, which was the last show that she's going to be doing for a week. She's on vacation. Candace writes, really appreciated joining Anna Kasparian yesterday evening and being able to thoroughly explain the many holes in the Charlie Kirk case. Yes, I am currently at 0% belief that Tyler Robinson shot and killed Charlie Kirk. However, I have repeatedly explained why I do believe he did play some smaller role around the campus on that day. She has an appearance on Anna's show here that you can watch. It's actually pretty good. It's on YouTube. Candace also posted yesterday regarding Andrew's appearance on the Charlie Kirk Show yesterday. And she says, today is our last episode before we go on break next week. She says, in a summary of her show, people lied and claimed I altered the footage of Tyler Robinson in the parking garage. Today I prove with video that I most certainly did not. And actually, the court footage presented was intentionally altered, which she did. She dropped that footage. We also present more exclusive footage of Terrell Farnsworth consulting with his employees shortly after Charlie was taken out. Did he disrupt the crucial chain of evidence custody? And also she says Andrew Colvett lied so deplorably on the Beavis and Butthead Hour in an attempt to present me as a fan of Adolf Hitler, of course, that Andrew Wilson actually defends me and tells the truth. So that we're going to get into that in just a second. That's what she posted. And she also posted about the footage that she dropped. The anti-Candites are out there saying that this new footage that she dropped where it was squeezed together, it was the picture that they released of it, and now we have the full video. Well, she at first released a picture showing what the normal size, the normal aspect ratio was, and then people accused her of doctoring or using AI to produce that photo. So she said, oh, I'll just release the whole clip, which is what she did. And we'll show you that too in a minute. Candace posts on X, for all the liars who lie about everything, no, I did not in any way alter the footage or run it through an AI program. Yes, the footage presented at the prelim hearing had its aspect ratio adjusted, which made the suspect appear much thinner. Apologies will be considered in the order they are received in. So we'll show you that footage in a second because she pointed it out on her show. Now, she also posted on X, Jack Posobiec had posted, it says, flashback, feminist paid witches to curse Charlie Kirk 2 days before assassination. And that goes back quite a while when the rumor was going around that there were Etsy witches that were paid to cast a spell on Charlie Kirk, which turned out to be completely debunked. And Candace writes, I traced this article to a writer who was for a long time based in Ukraine. Beyond that, the witches had only just opened their Etsy account and were impersonating the identity of another woman on Instagram. If I recall, their website was only activated a few days after the assassination, and the code for it was written by a young man in the Philippines. So it appears that this website was created after Charlie was taken out. So that debunks it right there. But she says, since TPUSA has a relationship with the Daily Mail, they should perhaps reach out to the Ukraine-based reporter and get the identity of the person who purported to be the witch who cast the spell. Perhaps ask the reporter why he felt so confident he was speaking to a witch. When I was able to determine that the individual was impersonating another woman who is active on Instagram and who spoke with me willfully. This has always been an obvious hole in the story that could easily be solved by the Daily Mail. Well, that's kind of a theme, isn't it? Because TPUSA could easily debunk a lot of things as well if they would just release footage, give alibis, respond in any way. They haven't done it. Probably they're not planning on it. So these rumors just continue to fester and grow because where they could easily stomp it out, it turns into a fire because they won't do anything about it. And that catches us up on Candace's X post and X feed. A couple more things going on X. Allie Files writes, Andrew Wilson calling Candace stupid. Candace won that debate hands down. The memes over the internet can tell you that. He needs to get all his frustrations out on the Charlie Kirk Show. She's talking about Andrew Wilson, who was on Charlie Kirk yesterday. We'll see that in just a second. Trisha Hope writes, I have to ask, is Blake Neff sick? His coloring looks gray and he looks weak and sick. And I responded to that. I thought the exact same thing when I saw him. I thought the same thing. He looks gray. He looks thin and weak. If you see the coloring of these two compared to Blake, he looks like he needs help. That gets us caught up on X, and let's jump into Candace's show. So she started out with Terrell Farnsworth, and that's been a theme this week, is dropping this Terrell Farnsworth footage where he's grabbing the SD cards out of one of the cameras, and apparently he's doing something with it behind the tent that we couldn't see before, and now we have the footage thanks to Candace. Let's get into this.
Ready? Terrell Farnsworth. Let's jump right back into this. Again, what I am showing to you is within approximately 10 minutes of Charlie getting hit. And we just showed you that Terrell takes his laptop. It looks very much like he inserts an SD card into it, an SD card that he just happened to take out of a camera. It appears that he is accessing that footage. What I'm going to show you is that he even seemingly consults with Philip Goldsberry. Now, you may remember we mentioned Philip Goldsberry. We did a whole episode. He is the guy who mic'd Charlie for that final time. And he was under Terrell Farnsworth at Visual Impulse. I just want you guys to see this footage. We're going to watch it here. Nice hand grenade. All right, what do we got here? Point there. Keep your eye there. Gets up and he shows something on his laptop to Philip Goldsberry. He sits there and he just gets busy on his laptop. Looks like he's putting in looks like he maybe putting something else in there, maybe a second SD card. Not exactly sure. I'm just letting you guys watch this so that you can see. We were told by Andrew Colvett that he was worried about people stealing hats. I'm not getting that sense. Doesn't seem to be a priority. Keep your eyes there so you can see he's just on his laptop. Still on that laptop, moving those hands, tip-tapping away, checking back, make sure nobody is looking. That is important. Man, if I thought there was a sniper running around, I'd probably maybe go into a car to do this, somewhere safer to do this. I'm always amazed that it seems like they knew they were okay. Again, this is within 10 minutes. Charlie going down.
I wonder, it looks like when Terrell shows the laptop to Philip, I wonder, it almost looks like he's doing it. You put the facial recognition on your laptop to be able to open it instead of a password. It almost looks like he's showing it to his face like that to get it to open. I wonder if that was Philip's laptop. That's kind of what it looks like to me, because he just flashes it in front of his face and he holds still for a second and then he long enough for it to log in or go into to open the laptop. And I just wonder if that's what he was doing. Just a thought. So this is never before seen footage and very interesting.
What is not in dispute is that Terrell did, in fact, remove a physical object from the crime scene. That's not in dispute. He then immediately goes behind the tent, puts it in his pocket. Would that count as concealing? I'm not sure. But
she took a look at the laws and was trying to figure out if Terrell was in violation of some kind of law because he took that evidence and obviously put it in his pocket. But FBI or law enforcement in general doesn't seem to be interested in looking at anything. This reminds me of the JonBenet Ramsey case when they just thought they had a suspect, and whoever did that atrocious thing back then is gone. They got away with it because the police wouldn't look at anybody else. They wanted to look at the mom, and that was it. They were laser focused on the mom. That's kind of what's going on here, I think. And I just wish that they would start pushing more and looking into more areas. But it almost would undermine their whole thing, because they were like, well, if we open the investigation or reopen it, then that would make them look very bad. So I get it, but it's very frustrating. Candace also pointed out something on Anna Kasparian's show, and I'll show you that.
Yesterday, I joined Anna Kasparian on her program for an interview, and she asked a question that is on a lot of people's minds regarding all of this. Take a listen.
I don't want it to be lost on our audience, so I want to reiterate. he never provided, and this is based on the testimony that you can hear for yourselves during the preliminary hearing, he never provided the SD card, the original SD card to the investigation. He just provided the Google links and a flash drive, which would indicate that there's a possibility of evidence tampering, no?
That's actually a fair question, and it becomes an even more fair question as we demonstrate to you that he went onto his laptop. And the truth is, from what I've researched, it could be a legal gray area, but maybe not really. I'll just tell you what I found. Broadly speaking, yes, everything that we saw Terrell do in terms of violating the crime scene, using Charlie's chair to climb up and remove the camera that was behind Charlie's head, and then taking that SD card, inserting it into his pocket, potentially altering it, could indeed register as a very serious legal offense. In the state of Utah, he could be charged with a felony for tampering with evidence, just as he suggests, which is...
Could be charged with a felony, but that's not going to happen. From what I've seen, it looks like law enforcement is satisfied with what they have, and they're not going any further on this.
With the SD card now safe and sound in his pocket, what was his impetus to then take it out and insert it into what I presume to be his personal computer? This, of course, is very crucial, right? Because it would disrupt the chain of evidence. That's a crucial chain, right? Who touched everything as it went along, because it presents a real opportunity for the files to have been altered.
Yes, that's right. And the shots that we've seen from behind Charlie have all been zoomed in. Nothing has been a wide angle raw footage from behind. And that's what's missing. That's what we need to see. Tyler Boyer actually commented on this a while back, and Candace reminded us of this. Let's take a listen.
He tweeted this when people were asking, hey, why is Terrell appear to be tampering with evidence? He replied and he said this: dude did not tamper with anything. The law enforcement officers asked them to turn them over immediately so they didn't get lost in the commotion before they took everyone into lockdown. My message is directly pointed at people like you who are promoting completely made up theories and therefore putting targets on these guys. Knock it off. Now, I replied to this on my show at the time because I said that's not what Terrell told me. And I also want to say that as our timeline grows tighter, it's hardly possible that law enforcement officers on the scene told him to secure the footage, because Terrell's video, which he sent me, recording himself, has metadata. And Terrell was filming himself until just after 12:26. So Charlie gets hit at 12:23, and Terrell is filming himself until 12:26 and 16 milliseconds. It's around almost precisely 12:28 that he begins taking the camera down. That's a minute and a half for someone on the law enforcement to tell him, hey, could you secure that footage? And I think can safely rule out Alan Robertson, because you have to go, okay, what law enforcement officers were around who could have done that? If you come right up and say, and Alan said, get the footage, well, we can safely rule out Alan Robertson for having told him to do that, because Alan would have no idea who Terrell is. He would have had no idea that it was Terrell's cameras, that it was his setup in that short time frame. Remember?
Yes, that's right. He wouldn't even have known who that was. He wouldn't have known who was in charge, and say something like that. And that was the excuse that they gave us. They said that the law enforcement had asked them for the SD cards or something crazy. That was not true.
The only person you will recall, if you go back in my episode, I don't know if that was in October when we started speaking about this, but Terrell only told me that he spoke with Erica. He did not specifically say when he spoke to Erica, so I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that she was directing him to take the cameras down. I'm just asserting that factually the only person that he mentioned to me that he spoke to was Erica, and he also offered that as his excuse and reason for jumping immediately to grab the footage. My understanding that it was out of his own volition, because he did not want Erica to have to see Charlie die in 4K. And then I pushed back and I said, what are you talking about? The whole world saw him die in 4K. Why would this back footage somehow save her from that? And that's why I thought things were weird, because everybody was saying something different. You had Tyler saying the police said it. You had Terrell saying that he did it out of his own volition to protect Erica. And you had Andrew Colvett saying to the public that this was because he was fearful that people were going to steal hats.
All very suspicious. Good points. 3 different stories by 3 different people that were very closely associated with TPUSA or Charlie Kirk himself. And really those questions need to be answered.
What is he showing Philip Goldsberry, by the way? What is there to show Philip Goldsberry approximately 10 minutes after your founder was murdered on your laptop?
Is it possible it was a facial recognition thing, or I don't know. I just offer that because it seems like he just flashed it in front of him and then took it away. So I don't know. It's possible. But again, these questions need to be answered. She also showed some footage that she hadn't showed before. As I said before, we had a picture only of that squished version with the condensed aspect ratio. It was a picture. And then people started accusing her of using AI. And she said, oh, we'll just drop the entire video. Let's watch.
Last week, we presented, and obviously it went viral, an image of the maroon guy, which was presented at court. The influencers were shown this 4K clear footage, and they failed to mention what I would have mentioned if I saw it, which is that this guy looks to be a lot whiter than Tyler Robinson. I mean, influencers came out and said that I was tricked, that somebody who gave me this is lying. And obviously people looked at their eyes and they said, no, the cars are clearly completely squished in the footage that the court showed. The footage now in video form, so you can see that I did not do that and they lied as always. Take a look at this. There you go.
This is pretty obvious. It should be pretty easy to identify this person. People have seen this video where he's wearing a maroon shirt, and that's weird because it was a theme that day, it seems like. And if this guy was some kind of security or working for law enforcement, or he may not come forward. It just might remain a mystery. But to me, he's identifiable. You can pretty much clearly see his face, and you can see his build, and I think we know enough about him where we could, if push came to shove, we really could. Candace goes on to talk about the prelim trial that we just had not too long ago.
Sergeant Mark Bricker of the SBI was put in charge of gathering all of the surveillance on campus at UVU. He testified that it was the Utah County's Attorney's Office that created it. So when we saw that 20 minutes, that was put together by the Utah County's Attorney's Office. Take a listen to him saying that.
And I asked you this question yesterday, but did you prepare that video compilation?
I did not.
Okay, you did.
The county attorney's office.
So for clarity, the prosecution, the side that is representing Erica Kirk, presented that it was them that decreased the aspect ratio. Maybe it was the SBI that remains open that decreased the aspect ratio, but
somebody did, and it should be also traceable. We should be able to figure out who did that, and we need to know. So that pretty much wrapped it up with the SD card and the new footage there. She goes on to talk about Andrew Colvett and Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson appeared on the Charlie Kirk Show yesterday and had a good old time and insulted Candace left and right. But Andrew did stick up for Candace. Let's listen to what she said there.
All right, you guys, today on the Beavis and Butthead Show, so fitting for Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff. They were joined by Andrew Wilson. That is not their horse. I know what you're thinking. With Andrew's cope of him basically trying to suggest that I won the argument, but not really, because it's going to age in the future and then I'm going to lose the argument maybe. This is what he had to say.
I predicted that this debate, that you were going to win it because the truth is on your side, right? And as somebody who's lived this firsthand, I know all the garbage when they continually drone on about this stuff and how many lies are continually laced in and just repeated ad nauseum so that the internet begins to believe them. So I knew that, but I knew also that she has a bigger followers on YouTube, whatever. So I knew that immediately there was going to be this rush to say who won. But I predicted this. I said, this will age really well, because what I was watching is that she conceded the whole debate very early on, multiple times at every different point and juncture.
And I don't need to play the whole thing for you, but obviously Andrew agrees with that. And they go on to talk a little bit more about the receipts that she has at the Cowboy Steakhouse in Penguich and how he's completely debunked that, which he hasn't. It just hasn't played out yet.
And hundreds of DMs, for instance, from people who didn't know that the steakhouse receipt was a complete phony fraud, that the whole thing is a fraud. Had no idea that was the case.
Can I just say something? So we have Andrea Burkhart. She's going to join us on the show tomorrow. She is apolitical as it comes. She is not on a side at all. And I asked her, I said, if they had exculpatory evidence, whether it's the parents that actually think he's innocent or they have...
Yes, would they have presented it at the hearing? And Andrew says they absolutely would. And that's not right.
I still do not understand why they keep trying to imagine that this Penguin Steakhouse Cowboy Steakhouse thing is fake and is a fraud. It's just not. I don't know how many times I can say this. I guess I'm going to basically say to them what I said to Andrew face to face is, you can keep saying this. You're going to eventually embarrass yourself,
And that's true. And she contacted the FBI, and they don't have a chance on that one. Now, it's possible nothing happens, but I think that it's going to, because the FBI finally did interview staff and the owner of the restaurant. Andrew did go on to defend her on one point, which I said earlier, and let's listen to that.
Next bit of what takes place on this show is a whole fake bit of transparency where essentially Andrew Colvett pretends that he's going to allow Andrew Wilson to ask them anything. We're going to do what Candace wouldn't do. You can just ask us anything. Checks. First, you got Blake. You're going to see him laugh. He loves Hitler. And then just watch Blake's face transform as he realizes that Andrew Wilson's not going to let them get away with that. And he's like, I feel like in that way out of context. Take a listen. It's brilliant.
Then she had that event where she basically said Hitler was great if he just would have stayed in Germany, which there's a lot of problems.
Now, to be fair and charitable here, right, just to be as unbiased as possible, I did go back and review that clip, as that seemed like it was the turning point, was that actual clip.
Sure.
It seemed to me that it wasn't actually trying to make any sort of apologetics for Hitler, but rather she was trying to make a comparison to nationalism and saying that as a nationalist, she thought he did a good job.
Wow, nice. Give that one to Andrew. Very good for standing up for the truth. That was true. And while I've caught him in a lot of lies in the past few days, or at least misdirection to be charitable in his words, I will give him this because that was good. And it totally took the wind out of Blake's sails as he was snickering there in the background. And when Andrew said that, he just completely deflated. So that was funny and good. And hats off to Andrew for doing that, Andrew Wilson. Now, this thing about them being friends was going back and forth as well, and I'm not going to get into all of that. They're still just going back and forth about, was Charlie Kirk friends with Candace or was he not? And I don't know why they keep fighting this losing battle. They really have picked a strange one, a hill to die on. But that went back and forth for a bit. And they also talked about Candace Owens when she said that supposedly that she was going to burn TPUSA to the ground. And that turned out to be not true as well, and out of context. And of course, these conversations that she had with Andrew Colvett back in the day when they were still on good terms, Andrew was talking to Candace and telling her things like inside information that came out that Andrew later said, no, that's not true. But the source was Andrew himself. And that happened more than once. So that was also in the show. And she's dropped all the receipts necessary. She really has. Let's listen to one more clip.
Make a timeline. September 14, 2025 was when you and I spoke for 17 minutes. On 12th, you were the one that was telling me about the Bill Ackman summit. You were the one that was telling me about Bibi Netanyahu's letter and telling me that Mikey McCoy had this letter on Charlie's laptop. And you told me basically that Charlie in this letter said that he was kind of away from the Israel cause.
Yeah, some information was coming from Andrew himself. And Candace is willing to show the receipts. She puts the screenshot of the call, and the call duration is all on there with the date and everything. And that's all it takes. That's all we're asking from TPUSA is to drop the receipts, to back up the claims that they've made and stop lying so much and get off of the Charlie Kirk Show, if anything. Geez, I can't believe that they're still using that Charlie Kirk Show as their own personal platform. So that pretty much got into everything, and it was a great show. I'd encourage everyone to go back and watch it, and I kind of want to give you an update on that. And usually I read comments, but this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to probably save that for the next video. I appreciate everybody watching today. I really hope that you're getting some value out of this, and I'm doing my best to try to keep everyone updated on the whole situation. If you find value, please like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and share the video. Also, it helps a lot with the algorithm. Things are changing at YouTube, and it will help the channel to grow. And I do appreciate everybody watching. You can reach me on X at jptruthprobe or email me at jptruthprobe@gmail.com. And if you haven't seen my other content, I'll drop a link to the videos right here. I appreciate everybody watching. Stay safe, stay clean, stay sober, and I'll see you in the next video.